Vuol dire che
Hey everyone, welcome to the show tonight. Tonight, what I want to do is talk about some, like the thumbnail said, why bugging out, there's more to it than just learning about bugging out. A lot of different factors that go into, the things that you learn in bugging out that also apply to other areas of preparedness. I am putting together a bunch of courses over at the Bug Out location. And as I was doing this course, it sort of reminded me that, as a lot of the times us preppers, especially those of us that have been doing this for a while, it's the furthest thing from our mind. The last thing we would ever do is take off and leave all of our stuff. So it's one of those things whenever we see something about bugging out, we're like, oh, here we go again, right? Sometimes we're like, okay, here we go again, bugging out. What, again, somebody going to tell me how to bug out. But there are a lot of different things that go into that I want to go through today. As well as with that, I also wanted to talk about a video from Magic Prepper. He did a little while back, but I want to talk about it because he talks about the necessary shift in preparedness. And it goes along the same lines as this, as far as why these things that I'm going to talk about tonight are important. Because you just never know, especially these days with the things going on. So with that, before we get started in this, I've got a kind of a crazy setup tonight. I've got our private group for the Bug Out location that I'm streaming this to, and we're going to see if that works. So far, so good, I think. I'm also streaming to Rumble and YouTube as well. I see a lot of people here on YouTube. Dorian Liberated Lady, what's going on? Derek, everyone in there. Those of you in the private group where I'm streaming, I can't, and I've got 3 different monitors going on. That's why I'm looking all over the place. But I can see your comments, but I can't put them on the screen. Whereas, like somebody on YouTube, I can show their comment here, and in the group, you can't see those comments either. So if you're on Rumble, I can't pull your comments on the screen, but you actually will be able to see those. So a lot of things, a lot of places that I'm streaming tonight, we'll see. I'm also on Twitter and Facebook as well. But we'll see, we'll see how everything works and if it continues to work properly. Liberated Lady said, yeah, glad you're feeling better. Yeah, yesterday, I don't know what the deal was, but my stomach we didn't get along very well yesterday. So it was not a good situation. Brian and I had to cancel our show. I've still got this on mine and Brian's branding. There's my yellow. Okay. All right, cool. But at any rate, I want to talk about a few of those, and thank you, Liberated Lady. With that, I wanted to mention the Bug Out location. I've almost got that to the point. Let me see if I can pull this up here. I've almost got to the point where I'm ready to sort of open the doors. If you're interested in this and you want to be the first on the list, because what I'm going to do is existing members and people on this list, I'm going to open up the doors for first. And with this, you just go to the website, thebugoutlocation.net, or you can go to thebol.net, and it'll take you here as well. But it'll take you to this page, and then you just click on one of these buttons right here, and it'll pop this up. You just put your email list, and you're on the list. I will email you updates about when I'm going to start opening the doors, what sort of progress I'm making, all of that. And I'm also going to be doing a contest that is going to be for existing members of the Bug Out location, as well as people on this list. So I'm going to be giving away one of these 72-hour kits from Legacy Foods, maybe even 2. I haven't decided yet. And they're actual 72-hour kits for 2 people of 12,000, almost 13,000 calories, I believe. So it's $115 at Legacy Foods. So really good deal. Couple of shirts I'm going to give away. I'm working on a few different designs too, because I know the ones I currently have aren't that popular. So I'm going to work on some new ones and a few other things as well. I haven't quite figured that out yet, but I'm going to make it a really cool giveaway and make sure that, just say thank you to everyone that's already a member. Say thank you to the people that join up. But once again, go to thebugoutlocation.net or thebol.net. and you can sign up here. Any of these buttons, you just pop that open and put your email address in. It's going to be freaking fantastic. It already is better than the original version. And tonight we're going to be talking about this course that I'm putting together a little bit about the bugging out stuff. So very cool membership website. I've got a bunch of resources that I've already added here. I've probably got 100 and some more. You can see all the downloads that I have here that for members, you guys can download different books, general preparedness topics, security, wilderness, communications, just a lot of different things. And the prepping courses right now, I've got the 30 Days to Preparedness, which is done. I've got the Prepping 101, which is almost done. Prepper Comms, I've got the ham radio portion of that done. Bugging out, we're going to go through tonight. First Aid is a legacy course from the old bug out location, which I'm going to put together, remake, and figure out what parts to keep, what parts to redo. But it's going to be, it's just a really cool course, or a really cool, way better than the original Academy, or the original Academy, which turned into the bug out location, which is now the bug out location 3.0. But at any rate, let me get a couple of comments out of the way before we get into, see if there's anything in there before we get into that. I also saw from Jim right before I got on here tonight that he's posted something. Let me see if I've got this in the group here. Let me see if I've got the right group here. This is showing me. This is showing me streaming here in the group, but he's got this. He just posted this about anti-robot, anti-drone ammo, and it looks pretty damn sweet. If you look at it right here, it's something that we may have to think about in the future. And he posted he posted about this, and it was like, yeah, this absolutely could be something with all the different technologies coming out. And this is sort of, rudimentary when you think about the technology they have, but it is absolutely something that we may have to think about. So just, something that's pretty interesting. And I want to play a little bit of the video that he posted in the private group. With that, along with that, I'm not going to put the private group on right now because it's just going to show this video and all that crap. But the private group is fantastic as well. And that's part of the bug out location. If you become a member of the bug out location, you get access to that group, or you can just join that group if you don't want to deal with the whole bug out location thing. Just $2 a month, you can become part of that group. Really, really smart group of people that are in there right now. A lot of people that really know their stuff. And it's just a really cool group to be a part of, especially if you're just starting out. There's so much knowledge and so much information you can gain in there. It's fantastic. But with that, Charlie Angel said, yeah, drones could be a big problem. Yeah, that's why I was thinking about that with the ammo. You may need some of that defense type ammo, and not against, people or anything like that, but the ammo that messes with circuitry and electronics and things like that, which is what some of this ammo does. So just pretty cool. I'm going to research more into this, and maybe Brian and I will talk about this on Sunday when we come back, when we get back on our Sunday show over on Rumble. But with that, what I want to do is talk about a couple of these aspects of bugging out, because with bugging out, it is, like I said, it's one of those things that we sort of, take for granted. We think about this and it's like, no way in hell I'm ever going to bug out. Let me see if I can. Oh, I can't. I was going to put a couple comments up here, but it's hard to see with me up there, so I'm not going to do that. But in the group, there were some people in there that made some good comments about how it would take a whole lot to bug out. Brandon in here said, and I can't put this up, but I can read what he said real quick. He said, that's a great question. It really depends on a number of factors. For me, oh, now it's going to come off. So now I can put this on. Told you this is going to be an interesting show tonight. But he said, that's a great question. It really depends on a number of factors for me. Nature of the event, available escape routes, time until events affect my location, viability of bugging in with the current resources weighed against the expected duration of the event. So a lot of different things. It would be worst case scenario, like I've got no other choice. I think it was, as you said, Alpha in here said, as you said, bugging out is the last option. Like Brian says, unless you have a destination to go, we're all just refugees. And that's exactly what it would be. If you're bugging out, you're leaving everything behind. But there may be situations where that is a necessity, and we'll go through a little bit of that tonight as well. But Alpha says here, the tripwire for us to leave is an imminent threat of death. And I think that's I think I even put it on here. That's the key phrase right there, imminent threat of death. Because we have the basement, which has a room with a concrete ceiling. The threat would need to be more than just a tornado. So I think that's all of us sort of tend to agree along the same lines, that it would have to be something super bad for us to just take off and leave. But those situations are out there. They're just, sort of far and few between. When you think about all the things that could happen in preparedness while we're prepping, all the different disaster scenarios, everything that is a possibility, most of them, if not 99% of them, don't involve bugging out. But there are those select, those sort of extreme type situations, the civil unrest things, the natural disasters, those things that it may be a temporary thing. It may be a full-blown longer term type situation. In this bug out course, I've got this first module I've got here. Why would you want to bug out in the first place is basically what this is talking about. And this video basically goes into a longer term type bug out situation. So the things that you would need to take into account if it was something that was going to last a while, if you actually had a location. And a lot of us, not necessarily me right now, but a lot of people, especially a few people in that group, talking about how they've got a great line of sight for a number of yards, or how many ever feet or yards, a lot more room than I've got, and they're good shots. So, they're defensible property basically. And a lot of people have already taken some steps. And I think that's what we try to do as preppers, is take those steps towards having that survival retreat, that bug out location, that place that we don't have to take off to get to. We're already there. And I think that's definitely what my plan is, mine and Lisa's, is to get to that situation. And I know a few people that I talk to, quite a few people actually, have that situation sort of already taken care of. Talked to Tag and Grumpy Acres a couple times the last couple months. They have a whole community set up, so it is like a bug out community. It's spread out a little bit, but that's exactly what it is. So it's just one of those situations where we work on getting to that point, but to actually have to leave our current situation would take a whole lot, and that really depends on where you are as well. If you live in an urban city, in an urban area, and I've got this on the course as well, if you live in an urban area, that's going to be higher on your priority list, thinking about bugging out, thinking about bug out bags, thinking about evacuation routes, all those things. If you live in an urban area, not really high on your priority list, because you're already there. You've already thought about all of those things to get you to that point, to build your property up to that point. Now, maybe you're thinking about the things around the edges that still go into some of the stuff that's in this bug out course, about the security and all of those things, the community, all of those different things that go into a good bug out location, a good fortified spot for you to ride out, whatever might come your way. That being said, there's no guarantee that is, going to be 100%, the safest place to be in every single situation. I think of like Civil War when I think about how if there are two warring sides, right, and your house is right in the middle of the battlefield, you may, regardless of how set up your house is, you may want to get out of there for a little bit, let them duke it out, or, depending on the situation, maybe you want to stay too. I mean, who knows? Depends on what caused that whole Civil War type aspect, what caused that to go on, and where your allegiances lie and all that. But there could be times, regardless of how well set up you are, that you just want to get out of the way, let things happen, and then you go back to your place. Or, maybe your place gets commandeered, or, a lot of different things. So it's still something, like I said, still something you should think about, still something you should have that plan B for, a place you can go for a little bit, but it's not up there on the radar like it would be for somebody in an urban area, maybe even a suburban area. Really depends. I think a suburban area is probably a pretty good spot to be, and this is just shooting from the cuff here, but because you're already outside of the city, so you don't have to worry about that part of your evasion, right? The route you need to take to get out of the city. You've already got that taken care of, but you still got to go a little further. You've still got to have a place to go. You've still got to have those things in place. Otherwise, like they were just talking about, you're still a refugee. Survival retreats, friends, family, houses near you that might be out of that danger zone could be considered sort of a bug out location too, or an emergency spot for you to go. So at any rate, I don't want to spend the whole show. I wasn't going to spend this whole show talking about bugging out. I was going to talk about the aspects of bugging out that are important. So what I want to do is go to the next one that I was going to talk about here. Let me go back to the homepage of this and find out where I was. But one of the most important ones that I think when we're reading things about bugging out strategy and things like that is how people react in disasters, any type of situation like this. And it is, I've got this article right here, that it is one of those things that people are just so they're unpredictable these days. But in a situation, and I don't care if it's something small, something large, whatever it is, people are, like I say in this article here, and we've talked about this a couple times, people are the X factor. You've got, like it says right here, leaders, followers, and turds. You've got the leaders, which is a very small minority of people. You've got the turds, which are, again, a very small minority of people. But those turds are going to be extra turdy, I guess. They're going to be worse than they are right now. But most people are the followers, and this sort of goes into what I was going to talk about with the shift in preparedness, what I am going to talk about a little bit later. But most people are the followers. They just want to go along. They're part of the herd, right? The sheeple. They just want to go along, do things that just are just easy. They want to be able to live their daily lives. They want to do their normal things, and they don't want to upset the apple cart. But when things, when things get bad, that's when I think those followers could become a little bit dangerous, because which way are they going to flow? And it really depends on who they sort of perceive to have that power and all that stuff. So it could be a situation that's it's just, who do you trust? It's a lot of, you just can't trust. These days it's hard to trust people, but in a situation like that, regardless who it is, you just can't trust people. There's the saying, and I haven't heard it much lately, but you hear it from time to time about the mom that comes to the front door asking for some food for the little kid, and then she's got the guy hiding behind the corner, or her husband, or a group of people hiding, waiting to come take all your stuff. You just don't know. Somebody dressed like a police officer, somebody dressed like a priest, somebody dressed like a doctor or something, somebody that they look like they deserve the respect and they're a safe person. You don't know what type of, what you're going to get from them in a disaster situation. So while in a bug out situation, we are thinking about this sort of like as you're on the road or as you're on foot, but it's the same sort of situation where it could be, you are at your home, you have to go somewhere, or you're traveling around to get supplies or something, or you're just outside on your property, in your yard or whatever, and you have that interaction with that person. You really have to understand how to deal with that person as safely as possible, and sort of, I think that's why we think about the things that we do these days, to get that idea of how those interactions might go down, and some of the best ways to handle those situations. And honestly, I don't know that there is a one right way to do everything. I think there are people that are good communicators and are going to be good at that. There are people that can learn to be, and there are people that are just terrible communicators and are, either just going to give away the farm, or they're just going to say, be that old man, get the hell off my lawn, which could cause problems down the line. But again, it could be the best plan is to just tell them to get the hell out of there. It may be the best plan to give them what they want and let them leave. I mean, I don't see why that would be, but you just never know with all these different situations. So with that, it's people. I think when you're learning about the bugging out and things like that, the people are something that we really need to be weary of, and really think about. And that goes for every aspect of preparedness. The next one I've got here in this course, and I'm not going to go through all of these, but I just wanted to show a couple that show the skills that we can learn, even though it's about bugging out. It's not necessarily about bugging out. But escape and evasion tactics. These are good to know regardless of whether you're talking about a bug out situation or not, because escape and evasion could be, you could be downtown at some sort of event, or just out with a family pick your place, some sort of amusement park or movie theater or something, and you have to these same types of things are going to come into play as they would if you were on some sort of bug out route and you ran across some people. Same sort of strategies, maybe completely different situations, but same sort of strategies that you would have to incorporate in your plan. Charlie said here, I'm going to read a couple of comments here. In an SHTF situation, you need to be wary of people you don't know. Yeah, all of them. I mean, these days, I'm sort of wary of people anyway. But these days, when you meet somebody, you get to know somebody. You've got some leeway, I suppose, right? Because if you meet somebody and they seem nice to begin with, and they turn out to be one of those turds and you just didn't know it, these days you can cut bait, right? You can figure out ways to make sure that they're not part of your inner circle anymore, or they're not going to contact you anymore, hopefully. But in an SHTF situation, that's a more dire situation. That person may not go away so easily. Now they might, but that person may go away and come back with 10 more people. So it's really important these days. It's, we have the luxury of being able to finesse the situation, whereas in an SHTF situation, I don't know. Back to this though, the escape and evasion stuff. This is one of those things that are really important, because you're talking about, this could be, and on this course, I don't have the bugging in portion of it done yet. I'm deciding whether I'm going to make that its own separate course or add it into this. Really depends on how big it gets. But when you're talking about a bug in situation, the escape and evasion skills come into that as well. And a bug in situation is far more likely than a bug out situation. Like I was talking about earlier, most people, 99.9% of people, it would be the last resort to have to bug out. Bugging in, we just never know, because you have no idea. We don't get to pick and choose when disaster is going to strike. We don't get to decide, hey, if I need to be at home. I guess you could decide, kind of like me, where I'm home 90% of the time anyway. But a lot of us have to go to work. We have to go to school. We have to go to the grocery store. We have to do things. When something happens, whether that's a natural disaster, personal doomsday, whatever it is, we may need that escape and evasion, those tactics we learn in preparedness about avoiding people, avoiding having alternative routes, all those different things to be able to get back home. The bug out bags are basically the same thing as get home bags, with just get home bags are just bug out bags with a little bit less stuff. And all of those things are just super important to think about in a lot of different areas in preparedness. Even if your car breaks down and you're 10, 15 miles away from home, it's not going to be a two-day journey or anything like that. But maybe because you've plotted out different routes around where you are, and you can skirt some of the stuff, maybe you know the quickest route to get to your place. Just a lot of different things we can learn from that escape and evasion stuff. So next, picking a realistic bug out vehicle. This is one as well, because again, a bug out vehicle. This is one that, yes, it's bugging out, and we all see the pictures of these fantastic, super cool bug out vehicles. This one right here I thought was cool because this is an old school Subaru. I actually made this picture a few years ago, but this is an old school Subaru I saw with big fat tires, and I just thought it's interesting because we see these big, huge zombie style bug out vehicles, right? Some of them that are $40,000, $50,000, which would be fantastic. Or maybe it's a deuce and a half, something, one of those big military vehicles. Something like that would be fantastic, but not really realistic when you think about a situation that is going to be, the likelihood is pretty slim that something like that is going to happen. Now, needing a bug out vehicle, say like a angry or a all American prepper, it's got his group's got the tanks and things like that. I think needing something like that there may be more situations where you would need a vehicle like that than want having to bug out altogether in the first place. So I could see why you would want. I want a deuce and a half. I think that would be fantastic. I want one of those $40,000, big, Jeff Bezos looking bug out vehicle type things, but that's not happening. But I can see the usefulness of those before I could see having to bug out. But again, with picking a realistic bug out vehicle, which is my whole point with this, it could be the car sitting in your driveway, a vehicle that's well maintained, a vehicle that's going to get you a long distance, a vehicle that is all-wheel drive, is going to get you through some different conditions, whether even if it's some sort of a little bit of off-roading, whether it's weather conditions, all of those different things. That is far more important, in my opinion, than Deliberated Lady said, "Hell yeah, Dale." Must have been talking about the bug out, or that must have been when I was talking about the bug out vehicles. But those situations are going to be far more. Having a vehicle like that is going to be far more realistic than having one of those big ones. And along with that, you get one of those big ones. You get that deuce and a half. Or like the Doomsday Prepper show me and Brian did a review on a while ago, the Trucker, right? A lot harder to navigate different situations with a big ass truck like that, or, a military vehicle or a tank or something like that. So depending on the situation, yeah, those would be cool. But this little Subaru bug out vehicle picture I've got right here, is probably you're going to be a little bit more nimble in a car like this, or the car you have sitting in your driveway. Also, you've got the gray man aspect of all of this, and that sort of goes into bugging out as well. Being the gray man, being unremarkable. When it comes to being the gray man, that car that looks like every other car in the world is going to be far better than a completely camouflaged van with the big, the snow plow on the front. I'm thinking of this van that we saw, and I'm sure it goes to a bunch of different prepper conventions and shows, but this van that I saw, it's totally tricked out zombie van, very freaking cool. It's got the antennas and all the stuff on it that you would think of it when you think of bug out vehicle, but that's going to stick out like a sore thumb. Something like that you're going to be a target, basically. So all the yahoos that are out there running around trying to take advantage, all the turds that I was talking about earlier, all of those people trying to take advantage of a situation are either going to see that park somewhere. If it's in your driveway, you're hosed because they're coming into your house next. If you're driving on the road, you're going to get blocked off, and they're going to try to, cause a scene. It depends on how prepared you are to defend yourself in that. If you got the whole, the steel plating and the, the big guns and all that, maybe you can. Comment here real quick. No chances. This is the first time watching you live. Been listening to your podcast for a while. Good stuff. Thank you. No chances. Yeah, I had to pull that up real quick. Anytime somebody's new, got to pull them up. Batshot Crazy's here. Light Raider, what's going on? Charlie Angel, I've already pulled up one of your comments. I knew you were here already. Brandon said he's got an F-250. Mine's a 150. Mine's a little baby compared to his, but he says my F-250 looks just like every country state construction vehicle in my area. Yeah, that's the one thing about in the country. It seems like at least 3 or 4 out of every 10 vehicles, 6 or 7 is a truck. 3 or 4 of those 6 or 7 are Fords. Whether that be old F-150s, new F-150s, or whatever. So yeah, if you've got an F-150 out here or out in a rural area, 250, 350, whatever it is, yeah, you're just one of the you're one of those people that belong there. So now out here, I don't know how many Chevys I see out here. I'm not going to go down this rabbit hole of talking crap about Chevys, but I'll just say I don't see a whole lot of Chevys out here. I do see a lot of Dodges, not a lot of Chevys though. All right, so let me get back to this, and we'll go through a couple more, and then I want to get to this video from Magic Prepper. Let me see. Let me go back to the homeowner. We'll just do one more here on this course. So in this course, we got people. We've already talked about that. We've got escape and evasion. You've got your bug out vehicles. Planning is the one I wanted to talk about here. Realistic planning, family planning, thinking about different scenarios. All of these really go into, not just picking a bug out location, bugging out, things like that. All of these play a huge factor in just general preparedness, all aspects of preparedness. Real quick, before I get into that, I wanted to show this real quick. When I was talking earlier about what it would take for people to actually bug out, I've got a few examples here, and there's a bunch more, but I wanted to just talk about a couple of these. The president decides to stay in office. And this one I have on there because not necessarily just because the president decided to stay, but what sort of situations would that cause that a politician decided he didn't want to leave, regardless of what side of the aisle they're on, because that politician would have to have the support of the other politicians, and that would kick off a whole powder keg of a whole bunch of people in this country, me included, not dealing with that type of situation. So how would a situation like that explode and build up? And this really depends on where you're located too. If you're in the middle of nowhere, like a lot of people in the group, you're probably going to be okay. If you're somebody that's older or a situation where you just can't leave, you're going to have to figure out what you can do. But in a situation like that, something could kick off, and it could, luck of the draw type thing. It could mean it may not mean that anything reaches your front door. But it also could mean that something you just happen to be in that the line of sight or whatever, where everything starts to happen. You just happen to be right there. The other ones here, natural disasters are a big one. A natural disaster would be something that's sort of a short-term type situation. Hopefully short-term. If it's a tornado or hurricane or earthquake that tears apart your house, even wildfire, we've had that happen a couple times out here. You're going to have to figure out how to relocate and all of those things. But something short term could just mean going to a friend's house, a neighbor's house, camping there for a couple weeks or so. Also, nuclear disasters. We don't necessarily think about that all the time, but not just bombs dropping, but nuclear reactors and things like that. The whole Ohio train derailment thing. If something like that got to be bigger, you never know when you have to actually leave for a little while because it's not safe where you are. A couple of the other ones, economic collapse and civil unrest. Civil unrest, I talked about when I was talking about the whole president staying in office thing. There's a lot of different things, sort of the economic collapse thing too. A lot of different things that could lead up to that civil unrest. So it's all of these things sort of are all intertwined because one thing can lead to another thing. It's not just about the one situation, if the economy gets bad and we get into some sort of crisis, sort of like we are now, even if it gets a little worse than we are now. Hey, White Rabbit's over in the group on the video. You Jammers over there too. YouTube, you guys must be on both of them. But hi, White Rabbit, how you doing? I forgot what I was talking about. Oh, there. One thing can lead to another. So when we think about an economic collapse, we also have to think about these other things as well. So bugging out, yes, it may be that worst case that only if I absolutely 100% don't have any other choice in hell, then I'm going to have to go. There are a lot of different situations where that could happen. But like I said, 99% of the things that we prepare for don't involve a bug out situation. All right, so I did want to talk about and then we're going to move on. But the family planning aspect of all of this, the family planning, the evacuation planning, all the planning for different disasters and those things. This right here, sort of what I was talking about. All of these could be, even though this is a bugging out course and this is for bug out situation, there are considerations that go into other things as well. Whether you are, like I said, you're in a bug in situation, you're trying to get home, just get the family together. Your family, you could be at home and you've got to get your family to your house. They could be in a situation like this. So the family planning and talking about these different things and understanding what your family is going to do is all crucial too, because we can have everything figured out. We can have everything, down to a T and everything's going perfect. We've got everything completely planned out. If our kids don't know, if our spouses don't know or don't care or don't follow that plan accordingly, that means we are going to have to adjust course to accommodate what they just did. Because with a lot of people, we'll say, hey, you snooze, you lose. Sorry about your luck. You didn't listen. Too bad. When you're talking about a family member, you don't have that option. So if they are not getting home because they decided to jump on the highway because that was the fastest route during some sort of EMP or something that caused the highway to get locked up, you're going to have to figure out how to get them home. And do you have a way to communicate with them, or are you completely in the dark? Because if it's some sort of EMP, it's not as easy as a cell phone. Right? Possibly, we don't know, but we need to plan on the fact that cell phones are not going to be working, cell towers aren't going to be working, texting and all that's not going to work. So how are you going to do those things? And that's all part of the planning thing. So my whole point with this, as I was doing this course, putting this course together at the bug out location, I started thinking about that, about how all of this stuff, yeah, it's bugging out, but it's all fundamental stuff in preparedness. It's all things that we need to learn and we need to think about, because if we learn about, the bugging out aspect of it, once we start learning about something else or talking about something else, then we'll have this stuff to sort of go back on and say, hey man, I remember this about this, so this probably applies in this situation as well. I remember this about how to read people, how to escape an evasion, how to do all these different things. That just not necessarily a bug out situation, but it still applies in this situation as well. So just a lot of cool stuff. Again, at the bug out location, like I said, I've got a couple weeks, probably 2 or 3 weeks until I'm opening the doors. If you want to get on that list, get on the waiting list, get in there first, along with the current members, go to thebol.net, get on that waiting list. Anybody that's already a current member, I will, whenever I send out an email, I'll make sure and get you sent an email as well. If you're not on the email list, you can log into the current bug out location, which is thebugoutlocation.com. And down at the bottom on your profile page, there's a link where you can try to re-sign back up to that email list and get updates. Because in a couple weeks, when I launch, I'll be sending out an email letting you know how to sign up, register for the new one. And then the old one will still be around, but eventually that's going to get whittled out. So at any rate, what I wanted to do, I think what I'm going to do is talk about this video for Magic Prepper, and then I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to play a little bit of that video that Jammer put up about the robot killer ammo, that stuff. But this video and I'll just play this full screen a little bit. What he's talking about this, actually, I'll put it up here before I start playing it. What he's talking about here is this necessary shift in preparedness. And I think this is something that's pretty interesting these days, because there's always been I guess it's the prepper hate, right? That's what I call it, the prepper hate, where there's always, and it's not just preppers that I'm talking about here and that he's talking about here. It's the people with the same sort of mindset, the people that don't want to just go with the flow, the people that just want to be able to do what they do. And not have all these rules and restrictions and being told this and being told that, the people that don't need to be, white rabbits on YouTube as well. It's there's sort of this trend where we've always had the stigma, right? We've always, and I'm not talking just about preppers. I'm talking about people that think like us in general, the people that sort of question all of this stuff. There's always been this push, this trend to sort of ostracize and say, oh, those crazy whack job conspiracy theorists, whatever's. These days, it's almost like on steroids now, where it's more of it's not just a sort of a demeaning thing. It's more sort of pushing people to the side and categorizing them as just completely crazy, completely dangerous, things like that, where if you are not following along, if you are not one of these people that is just totally on board with the politicians and the corporations and the World Economic Forum and all these things, you are one of these people that are almost seen as dangerous these days. That's how they try to label all of this, all of us that don't necessarily agree with that whole mainstream narrative that's being pushed. And I think that's the shift he's talking about here. And what he's talking about, and I'll play this little part right here where he's talking about we're not thinking about the things that we used to think about in preparedness, where it's the, stocking the food store. I mean, we are, don't get me wrong, the food storage, the basics, the necessities, right? We still are thinking about those things, but more so these days, we're thinking about our responses to different things because we see how possible it is for some sort of conflict to start. Whether that's a conflict here in the United States, whether it's a conflict between different countries, we see a lot of this stuff, sort of coming to a head. We see how much push there is for the digital identity and the globalism in general. How people these days, corporations and governments are all, and media, all three of them are, basically in bed together. And if you are on the outside of that, you're the odd man out. So these days, it's harder than ever to sort of fight that machine. But I think at some point, things could be coming to a head. They're going to push too far. They're going to push too hard, something. And I think as preppers, that's sort of where we see things going. At any rate, let me play what he's got to say here, and then I'll take some comments and we'll elaborate it on what he was talking about there in a little bit. And I forgot to put the link in the show notes, but I will right after this. Or you can just go to Magic Prepper, and I'm sure it's one of his more recent videos. Let's go ahead and play a little bit of this, though.
Right. So why is this happening? Well, here's some thoughts for you. I just want you to kind of consider this, okay? Especially people in this community, which generally tend to be American patriots or people who want to be left alone, or at least people who try to take matters into their own hands as much as possible, understanding that there is no safety net, right? This community has been abandoned by many of our institutions that are supposed to protect us and make sure that we can progress in a very prosperous manner as a country. These institutions include the federal government. They've abandoned us. They're not here to protect us. They don't care about how we feel in the sense of voting or taxes or regulations regarding what you do with your land or what you do in the sense of acquiring equipment to protect yourself or anything related to that. They've abandoned you. So has the mainstream media. The news media has abandoned you as well. I get better information from random guys on the internet than I get from any mainstream media source at this point in time. And it's because they don't care about you anymore. And when I say you, I mean you specifically, you here in this community, someone who wants to be a prepared citizen, not these people that live in, urban environments and spend their entire day sucked into a cell phone thinking about what they're going to watch on Bravo next, right? Like, this is not the demographic they care about any longer. So we've been abandoned in that regard. We've also been abandoned by pop culture. They don't care about us anymore either, right? And of course, it's affecting them to a degree. People are losing money, businesses are going under. But you can see that that's not stopping this machine from moving forward, which is why you should be really concerned about the direction we're heading in, because even...
So it brings up a couple good points there. Like I was talking about earlier, it seems like we've always had to deal with the prepper hate and the being labeled and chastised and all that stuff. But it sure seems like lately, hey Joe, what's going on? You missed almost the whole damn show. But there is everything up till now, yeah. But there is this sort of it's almost going past the whole prepper hate thing. It's the people with the conservative mindset, the people that just want to get their stuff done, don't want to be told this and told that, the people that want to express themselves, the people that want to question things. All of that, it seems like these days it's worse than it ever has been, at least since I've been online doing this stuff for 10 years now. When you look at everyone, all of these three big machines working in concert, the media, corporations, and governments, all working in concert to sort of push this narrative. Jammer said here, and he did make a good comment yesterday, said, like I was saying yesterday, the line in the sand keeps moving. Are we not reacting to the ones in power? We are not reacting to the ones in power and are moving on because we aren't standing up. Yeah, and that's sort of where everything is going, because I think people just sort of it's the frog in the boiling pot of water type thing. People sort of get used to this and get used to that, or get all up in arms about this and that, and then forget about it because our attention spans, we have the attention span of a gnat, and then it moves on. But I think eventually it's going to get to the point where either we look back and see how everything has gotten destroyed because we never did stand up, or to the point where we are going to have to stand up and say enough's enough. I was talking about when if a president decided to stay in office, or the government decided to do away with the whole, all of that stuff. I'm on YouTube. I got to be careful with what I'm saying here. But if that were that, I think that would be one of those straws that broke the camel's back. They know how they can push things. They know how they can, keep things moving along the direction they want to do it, really slowly, one bit at a time. But eventually, I think there is going to be, hopefully there's going to be some pushback, but I just don't know, because you have this whole machine, like I was talking about, the corporations. So, for some reason these days, people don't see corporations as evil anymore. BlackRock is the most evil corporation even worse than, the Builder, or not the Bilderbergs. What am I thinking of? The Carnegies and the Rockefellers and all that stuff. They basically, BlackRock and Vanguard run the world right now. But they put out these commercials and everybody thinks they're fine. Nobody thinks about that because ESGs and equality and all those fancy keywords, right? That they make everybody feel good. So it can't be an evil corporation. The politicians, all the same exact damn thing. Make everybody feel good. So they can't be evil. The media parroting exactly what both of these are saying. So it's really a no-win situation for us. We see it. But the other side can't see it because their heads are so into it, and everybody's in their own little bubble these days, that we get looked at as some kind of like we're dangerous, like we're crazy because we're not following along with the machine, and we're going to get left out. I don't know about that whole left out thing, but anyway, I am on YouTube. I don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole because I'll start saying some things that'll. That I'll be on Rumble exclusively here pretty soon if I start going down this rabbit hole. White Rabbit in the chat here said, nothing is ever free. If the government is giving you something, they want something in return. Yeah. That's not just monetary either. If they put a bill through, if they've put a bill together, the no restrict or the whatever, the Restrict Act. We're talking about banning TikTok. Brian and I are going to talk about something on Sunday too about encryption and all that. If they're doing this for your safety, for your security, for your privacy, you can guarantee they're helping themselves out in the process and taking away some of your freedoms to do so. The Patriot Act is a great example of that. How we need to do this for your safety, for your security. We got to get these guys, but you look at that now, and that gets used against us more than anything else. So, at any rate, I think he makes some pretty good points there about how there's this shift where we're not talking about. Jammer. Sorry, I'll get onto that in a second. Jammer said, That's very true. Since we're quiet, we don't exist. Yeah. Closed mouths don't get fed, right? I was taught that saying by my grandma when I was very young because I was the quiet kid, and my brother was the loud mouth, and they were always the first ones at the dinner table. And, it's like with the birds, right? Oh, closed mouths don't get fed. You got to have your mouth open so the mom bird can drop it in. If we're just sitting here whining and crying about stuff and we're not actively out there doing the things like some on the other side are, then it really doesn't matter. But again, how much can you do when this whole machine seems as though it's set up to squash anything like that? January 6th comes to mind when I think about this stuff, that anything there's been this push to label everything on this side of the aisle as just completely dangerous. And again, I'm trying to watch my YouTube language here, but there's been this push to chastise everything on this side. So anytime people start to do something on this side, it gets labeled like extremists. The Jim Caviezel movie, and I'm not going to go too much into this either, but this movie he just did, and I haven't seen it or anything, but about child trafficking, is getting labeled as I've seen a couple things. The Washington Post, QAnon adjacent is what they're calling it. That's a great example of what I'm talking about right there. It's not. That subject right there, I don't care if what you think about him as a person or his movies or anything like that. That right there, whenever they start talking about that and they put it in the same category as QAnon, it totally discredits the whole thing. So it's almost like saying it doesn't exist is what they're trying to do. So when they do things like that, that's where they reinforce that narrative on that side of the aisle, or that, I don't even know if I want to call it that side of the aisle, just that narrative, that globalist, everything's accepted narrative. They start doing things like that and reinforce that. And then on the other side, when you start standing up against that and you say something, you get treated, or even like the parents that just want the government to stay the hell away from their kids. You get treated like you are, parents are the terrorists and things like that. So, just really interesting thinking about how that's the direction that we are sort of going as preppers. The things that he was talking about in that video, the information that we're researching, the information that we're looking for isn't necessarily the same types of things that it used to be just 10 years ago. We're thinking more along the lines of tactics and strategy and, those what if things rather than the how to type situation. So it's just very interesting. And I thought it was I wanted to talk about this. I've had this for a couple weeks. I want to talk about it because I think it is a very interesting and I think he's correct. Brandon said here, always comes down to anyone who doesn't agree with the narrative is evil. Yeah. They create the monster, right? They create that evil person, whether that's a person, a country, a group of people, whatever. And then they just start going after that person to where everyone else that sort of follows along, the followers, the sheeple, they see it from the mainstream media. They see it from the corporations. They see it from the politicians. All these people talking about how evil how wrong that is and how naive they are. And, all of these things that just totally demean them and discredit what they're talking about. These sheeple that just follow along, they see that on the news and that's just their opinion now. They don't bother to go research anything. They don't bother to look at the other side of the story. That's just their opinion now. And I think that is something, and this is the last thing I'll talk about, and then I want to play a little bit of this video. That is something that I think is a huge problem in the world these days, is everybody is in their own damn bubble. And the problem is, and this sort of goes along with the same thing, the problem is the people that tend to think towards like we do, sort of on the right, our bubble is like this, but the left, or that accepted narrative, you've got those people, which in the United States, we're 50-50, right? But on that side, you've got the media, you've got the politicians, you've got the corporations. So that 50-50 split of different ideas and different thoughts on different things doesn't seem like 50-50 anymore. That 50-50 split seems more like 80% agree with the stated narrative, and it's the 20% you outcast, you weirdos, you conspiracy theorists that, you know, feel the other way, when in reality it's 50-50. But everybody's in their bubbles these days, and that bubble on that side is just so all encompassing that it's you know, it's easy to, I suppose, get your opinions reinforced, and it's easy on both sides. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say one side is worse than the other, because they're both that way. If all you're looking at is right wing crap on Twitter or on Facebook, or no, well, not Facebook, they're ridiculous. But if all you're looking is at right wing crap, that's all you're going to think that's the normal stuff. And the same thing goes for the left, and both sides do it. Both sides don't even want to hear what the other side has to say. Anyway, I'm off that soapbox now, but just, you know, I don't know, man. I have no faith in where we're going as humanity, because nobody gets the fact that all of us, there's a 50-50 split here. And, you know, for the most part, we can disagree on a lot of things. And for the most part, we are not extremists on the left or the right. But according to social media, according to the media, according to politicians, we are. So I think, you know, we're I just don't have much faith in humanity. Charlie said real quick, and then I'm going to get on to this thing from Jammer. Who will be laughing when it happens? Not to be prepared. Yeah, and you know what? I don't know that any of us are going to be laughing, but there are going to be some of us that's you know, that are going to be not going to be surprised by it. I don't necessarily want to say ready for a situation, because who knows what the situation is, but not necessarily be surprised by it. Dorian said, yeah, that's why being neutral is important. Yeah, I think there's something to be said for that. And that's sort of the gray man mentality too, right? Where you just kind of, it's that I've always been the quiet person my whole life in my family. And I got into some trouble sometimes, because my mother would sort of, you know, he's just a good kid. He's the nice kid. He doesn't say much, doesn't do much. And then all of a sudden, I'm with my buddy. We stole his mom's car, and we're on our way to Vegas, and we're 15 years old. That actually happened. But it's the being neutral, being quiet, being the gray man, being that wallflower, and just watching the situation evolve. I think that's a hell of a skill to have, because instead of being vocal, being loud, being angry, and reacting to a situation, you sit back and you watch it and you plan. You're going to have better chances of navigating through that whole situation. So, all right. So I wanted to get into, let me see if I can find this now, see if I can play this video on the thing without it showing me on there. But this is, I wanted to play, I think it's at like 3 minutes of this video. I want to play a little bit where he explains what exactly these are. Let me see if I can make this full screen here. And he's talking about these rounds that they're developing. And this is a long video. I'll try to link to this. Jammer, if you're in the chat, maybe you can link to it as well for everybody on YouTube. I'm not sure if you're on YouTube, but I want to go. I think it's like a minute and a half. I'm just going to start playing it. And I think right here is where he starts explaining what this product actually is.
And about a year ago this time, I was told I was crazy for even thinking this up. And after the Ukrainian war, I'm getting a lot of calls from a bunch of 3- and 4-letter agencies.
That is really fascinating. So the company is called Robo Rounds. What the hell is a Robo Round?
So the idea came from my business partner, Dan, and I were talking about zombie rounds. And I thought,
sure.
An article had just come out about how much they had made in profits. Hornady had made off of that. And I was really impressed because
it was a lot, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. But what I thought was so funny was, zombies aren't real. And even if they were real, they didn't test them on zombies. And I just thought, robots are real. Robots are terrifying. How come no one doesn't make anti-robot rounds? And I started to think about it. robots don't have blood or organs. They don't experience fear. I'm sure there's a scene in which Reese from the original Terminator is shouting into Sarah Connor's face, they don't feel remorse. They don't care. And I thought, well, then how would you stop a robot? And that very quickly led to how would you stop a drone? And what do you make that can affect circuits, signals, and circuitry instead of organs, flesh, and bone? And that there lies how we came about with robo rounds.
Thank you. Thank you, White Rabbit and Light Raider and all that. Yeah, I was muted. Anyway, what I was talking about, I think that's pretty interesting because he brings up a really good point in that, because like I was just saying when you guys weren't hearing me, Brian has talked about this on our Survival Prepper podcast quite a bit about how the Second Amendment, pretty soon, it's not going to matter all that much because they're going to have all of this different technology. They're going to be able to do whatever they want, and our piddly little firearm isn't going to make one bit of difference. But this is almost sort of a leveling, I don't know about leveling of the playing field, but it gives a little bit more to the other side of the aisle as far as self-defense against some of this stuff. And it's not just, I'm not going to go too deep here into this on YouTube, but it does, it is sort of cool. And I think also it gives me a little bit of hope when you see something like this, because there are going to be companies, just like the firearms companies that sell to civilians now, that are going to be looking at technology just like this, that is going to, help, fight against that sort of situation. So when you think of that sort of tyrannical type government, or and we're probably going to see quite a bit of this, not necessarily here in the United States, but all over the world, some of this stuff start to take hold, and we're going to see exactly how this technology and these things get used in the future. And it's going to show us exactly what here in the United States that how we're going to need to progress to be proactive about all this stuff. So Jammer said Ukraine opened up Pandora's box on tech. Yeah, I'm actually surprised that we haven't found out more about some things. And that's another thing. Got the light shining in my eyes. It looked like I'm that's another thing as well that with the whole Biden administration and sending out the cluster bomb stuff. But I'm surprised. A few months ago, that was, according to the Biden administration, that was a war crime, but I guess it's not anymore. But I'm surprised that we haven't seen more of the tech, because I know they've got stuff behind the scenes, and maybe it's because they don't want to, give away the farm, because we still have other adversaries that we need to worry about. But yeah, I'm surprised. Yes, it did show a lot of things, but I'm surprised it didn't show more. Brandon said here in the chat, basically, they just don't follow anything news or current events related, and they don't watch TV the way we do. They only stream specific shows, and I couldn't believe it either. Watching. I saw something on Twitter from The View. I see it from The View all the time. They say some stupid nonsense bullshit, and they put that clip up to get everybody outraged. But that's sort of the same thing. The View is that same sort of bubble situation. They have their specific, completely targeted audience. It's the Karens. It's the people that want to hear that outrage, that think that the other side of the aisle or anybody that doesn't agree with them are just absolutely out of their damn minds and evil and dangerous and should just be destroyed. That's their target audience. Same thing on the other side of the aisle. So yeah, it's but that's where we are with all of this stuff these days, and that's why I don't see it getting any better. I don't see people waking up and saying, "Hey, you know what? Enough of this BS. Enough of this. We're about to go over the cliff, and everybody's too busy pointing fingers at each other to see that we're about to go over this cliff." So, Liberated Lady said, "I hate that show. I do too. Those old crows on that show drive me nuts." At any rate, just a very cool video. I don't know if Jammer was able to put that in there. If not, when I do this podcast, I will make sure that I put that link in the show notes, as well as all the other stuff that I was talking about here tonight. Also, I forgot to mention earlier today, this Thursday I'm not going to be here because on Wednesday Brian and I are doing a show with Angry American. He's got his YouTube channel here. I believe I put that in the description, but again, probably not. So if I didn't, I will make sure and put that down there. But I believe that's at 7 o'clock Eastern. And I will, I'll send out an email before that show starts when I get an exact time for that show. But we're gonna be on with Chris, talking about a bunch of stuff. I think he just started his YouTube channel over here. Odd time to actually just start a YouTube channel, but he's also got his Patreon, his after show. He does his stuff on Rumble as well. Should be a fun show. Chris is a great guy. Brian and I have talked to him a while ago when we were doing the preparedness experience stuff, and he's got the book series. The Going Home series. A lot of you know him, Angry American, Chris Weatherman, but just a very cool dude. Him and his wife do the show sometimes. Very cool guy, really knows his stuff, been doing this stuff for a while, and just a fun guy to sit and talk to. So that's going to be a fun show on Wednesday night. I believe it's 7. It's either 7 or 7:30 Wednesday night on the Angry Americans Prepper, Angry American YouTube channel. And he spells it Angery, I believe, if you're looking for Angry American. But yeah, batshit crazy, Angery. I think he spells it that way because of the confusion and all that. But it's going to be a fun show, and I can't wait for it. It'll be interesting with the three of us on YouTube. Trying to skirt the system, but I know he does his after show. We're going to stick around for half an hour afterwards, and that's a sort of a no holds barred type show right there for his Patreon members. So, at any rate, Joe said, anybody's got any comments? Let me know before I get out of here. Joe said, strength in numbers. Join a group that are like-minded. Any group, gun mag, anything, mega mag, anything. That's a lot of M's right there. But yeah, that's a fantastic point, because regardless, this goes into what that video I was talking about with Magic Prepper, and even the stuff with bugging out. Community and all of that is, and I think that's one of those things that people are looking at. I've heard the word community more in the last month. And not necessarily mag groups, but building community, support groups, and things like that. I've heard that more in the last couple months than I think I ever have while I've been doing this as a prepper. It used to be we talked about building mag groups and getting a prepper group together and this and that, right? Whereas these days, it's about just get that group together, get to know your neighbors, get that support group together, even if it's just your neighbors, because of just the reciprocity thing, right? Where it's they feel like when you bring your neighbor some cookies or something like that, they feel like they owe you something after that. If you're getting to know your neighbors and you're doing things, and you build those sort of relationships, it doesn't have to be going over and eating every Sunday night or anything like that. But you start building those relationships, and you're not going to be on your own when something does happen. So yeah, it's a fantastic point, and something that I think we talk about a lot lately that I don't remember us ever, and us as preppers, ever talking about like we do and as much as we do these days. So, all right, everyone, I am going to get out of here. Like Liberated Lady said, thanks, guys and dolls. Always a pleasure. Thanks for Dale for keeping me in the loop. Absolutely, Liberated Lady. Batshit Crazy, thanks, Dale. Charlie, thanks. Brandon, thanks. Everyone, thanks. But with that, I am going to get out of here tonight. Like I said, I'm not going to be here on Thursday, but I will be on Angry American's show on Wednesday night. And then I will try to get back to the regular Thursday shows. And again, the bug out location, if you go to the BOL.net, you can sign up there, get on the wait list. Should be just a couple more weeks and I'll be ready to open the doors there. It is a fantastic group, whether you're just starting out in preparedness, whether you've been doing this for a while. The prepping group that we've got that goes along with this is just a really cool group. A lot of really good, really knowledgeable people in that group. So if you're just starting out, you get a lot of help in there. And if you've been doing this for a while, you're going to find a lot of people in there that are sort of along the same on the same level as you, and you can get tips from people that may be farther along in some of these things. Like I think it was Alpha the other day, or maybe it was Brandon, that just went and got a whole bunch of metal. I forget what it was called, but he was talking about making if it would be possible to make an antenna out of that. I believe it was some sort of scaffolding or something. Anyway, just a lot of really cool higher level type prepping conversations and all that. So. The bugoutlocation.net or the BOL.net. Sign up, get on that waiting list. I'll be sending some emails out. If you've got any questions, you can email me about that. It's going to be fantastic. It's already better than the version that I've got now. Once I get this all done and once we start growing this and I start getting those next level courses that I talk about or those next level topics in there, it's going to be even better, more fantastic after that. So, at any rate, I am going to get out of here this time. I promise. So take care and prepare, everyone. And we will talk to you all later.